Okay, welcome everybody to the main event 166, and we're interviewing Mark Maestas today. We're happy to have you today with us, Mark, and looking forward to seeing your work and hearing more about yourself. Before we get started, I'd like to go over the news. I have 7 items, and a little bit different this week because what I've done is I've picked out things that some of our friends are doing that look like interesting presentations where they were demonstrating some things. Christine Simonson discusses the importance of the storyboard in the improvement of the end video, and she's using CDance 2.0 for storyboard to video generation. Eugenian Zabel talks about Claude plus CDance equaling unparalleled realism. Sherry Horwitz, solution to avoid producing AI slop is 4 mindsets to AI mastery. That was something I thought was well worth looking at. Artist AI launches Unlimited, and Ross Simon says he knows what he's going to be doing this weekend. ByteDance just dropped an open source Gemini Omni alternative. Bernini is a new AI video generation plus editing framework. Chris Finetti dropped his latest Midjourney sref guide, and this, believe it or not, is volume 55. He's been posting these things for quite a long time. Always they're filled with very nice images, styles that you look at and you say, I gotta try that one. And it gives you all the numbers of the srefs. Ross Simons demonstrates creating a path for a drone camera to follow in CDance. And he shows drawing a path on a Midjourney image in Photoshop, and then CDance will follow it in the video. Another great capability we're able to utilize, and CDance keeps coming up with these really excellent capabilities. Mark, that's what the news is I posted. I wanted to ask you, I see you're in Evergreen, Colorado.
Yes.
Evergreen is probably one of the prettiest places to live in the world, in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. That's a terrific area. You're just a little bit southwest of Denver, right?
Yeah, about 30 miles southwest. I actually grew up here. It's part of my story in my slides, but my family and I moved back here about 5 years ago to take care of my dad. He's in his 90s. So I'm a caregiver as well as moved back here. But we were in California for quite a while before we came back. I think the thing I like most, it is very beautiful, huge pine trees, but I like the animals. There's wandering hordes of deer and elk and other wildlife, foxes, rabbits that are constantly coming through, and I've always really enjoy seeing them when they pass by.
Believe it or not, I had that same sort of experience, except for the elk in northwest corner of New Jersey.
Uh,
We had a deer herd that actually believed that our backyard was their backyard as well, and they frequently slept back there. I'd have 10, 15 deer sleeping on the backyard. One time I was taking the recyclable can down from the deck, and they were all laying down there, and as I came down the steps, I said, you know, it's just me. I'm taking this trash can out front, and two young ones stood up, but that's all they did. And then when I turned to come back up the driveway after putting the cans out by the road, there were the 2 young ones standing up there looking to see what I was doing.
uh, yeah.
And but I came back in. Nobody got up. They just all stayed there. They know me and I knew them, and everything was great. But we had, I think, like 7 different kinds of woodpeckers. Uh, the bear were coming over from the Kittatinny Ridge to, we were on the Alamuchi Mountain. We had bear, particularly in the when the hibernation season was over. Wonderful. Even flying squirrels.
That's cute. Yeah. So I think I share the love of the animals with you, Big Al. But we have a garden which I had to put up some pretty tall fencing to keep the deer out because they would eat everything in a half an hour if they could get in. All right, let me go ahead and share. How I set this up is I have a this presentation deck, and I have talking points for about maybe half of them, and then the rest of this looks really long. It's just groups of images that I'll just kind of go through. And then for video, they're on my desktop separately, hang out over here, and I'll just start clicking through them when we get to the video. So I'll be talking, and I put some of the images in the slides themselves so people don't get bored while I'm talking. And then, but we can talk about any image that might stick out, or I might mention a few words. They go back, some of them go back to quite a while. So I'm Mark Maestas. Thank you everyone for joining. And Big Al, I'm honored for you to have me on your program, and I'm just happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you. So for an outline, I'll talk about my pre-AI life a little bit, and I kind of started my fashion journey back there. And I've done other types of design work. I'll talk about that. Then I'll talk about AI journey, how I try to learn things, and community areas of focus and what some of my goals are. Then we'll look at some images and some video, and then I publish an sref ebook similar to Chris Fateni and Ross Simons. I think between the two of them, they kind of got me going. And it's something I enjoy doing, and it's a way of burning excess mid-journey hours that I have left over before it renews because I hate losing fast hours. But so that's usually when I'll crank out a bunch of images to follow a theme, and I'll create an sref ebook and put it out in the community. And if there's time, if there's any Q&A, or feel free to ask questions as we go along as well. It's pretty casual. So this is the yellow brick road start point, because of the journey, I guess. And I had done a series of blotter paper art. That's what this is, with these little shoes. And then just to kind of keep it light, I do like doing fun stuff. There was a trend for a little while on LinkedIn where people are making smoking giraffes. I don't know who started it. So this is my version of smoking giraffes. So, so about me, live in Evergreen, Colorado, which we've talked about. I'm married. My wife's Lala. She's here in the back part of the room. I have a daughter, Oksana. She's gonna be 30 this month. A couple of years ago, she moved to Cork, Ireland, to work on her master's degree. She's since completed that, and she moved up to Dublin. She's looking for work. So she does a combination of dance and aerobatic related gigs. That's her passion. But she studied um, UI and UX and is looking for work in that area. And she's looking for a company that's big enough that can sponsor her so she can stay somewhere in the EU.
You ought to have her talk to Teresa. Teresa's a dancer also.
Yeah, so I've thought about trying to connect them, but it's hard to get Oksana online because she's always out doing stuff. But I'll have to follow up with her. I'm a caregiver. My dad's 92 years old, and we moved back to Evergreen to be with him probably about 5.5 years ago now. And before that, we were in California. Got three cats. They actually belong to Oksana, my daughter, but they're here while she's in Ireland. And so we enjoy them a lot. They're constantly pouncing on my keyboard and deleting things. But they're really fun companions. I'm 63 years young. My current situation, I was doing voice design at a company that specialized in big voice applications, primarily Fortune 100. Got laid off about 1.5 years ago, and I was looking at generative AI as an option, or actually AI in general, AI agents, and started seeing what was happening with generative AI primarily through LinkedIn, and that attracted me. It was to me, it's an opportunity to be creative, and because it's just still in its infancy in a lot of ways. I'm kind of working towards seeing if I can make a living wage, so to speak, or doing some contracting and kind of just continued to develop my skills with images and um, video. And it's not just necessarily the technical part of, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but there's the much bigger aspects like storytelling, emotion. There's so AI to me in a lot of ways is the camera, and anybody can take a picture, but what I hope to add value is developing my abilities um, for creating something that's entertaining or educates or conveys something of value to whoever is looking at the whatever I've created.
Before you change the page, I want to check with you. Is that a quackadile?
Oh, it was an example of intentional AI slop. This is probably a good year and a half old, but yeah, it's a skunkopotamus and a duckigator FaceTiming. And yeah, if this one's still this was watermark because it's way back. My first subscription was with Kling, and I think at the time you couldn't take the watermarks off until you got a paid subscription, which I later did do. So this is one of my earliest images, just goofing around. And then I can't remember the source of this baby image, but someone triggered something good year or so, more or so, and I came up with this one, and it's probably my most controversial image, I guess. I'd published on LinkedIn. So a couple slides on my pre-AI life. My earliest career goals is I sold solar heating systems. I was a procurement manager for a while. I did government contracting for the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Golden, Colorado. I worked in IT departments. Um, I joined a small enterprise company that doing initially QA, and then I worked on my master's degree part-time evenings in computer information systems. Once I completed that, I switched to being a developer, and I worked as a coder for about 5, 6 years. And we were eventually absorbed by Oracle, and my personality didn't really match the personality of the company, so I quit, got into independent consulting, and did that for about 15 years. And then I got hired, and one of my contracts with was we had moved to California. At that point, we were in Denver for a while, moved to California. I got a job at a factory in LA that manufactured jeans. It was Kus Manufacturing, was a Korean-owned company. I worked as their IT manager and implemented a big Oracle software module called it was the fashion module, which allowed all these different ways to configure how you keep track of clothing by size, by color, by style, and so on and so forth. So once that was done, I was their IT manager, but there was like no new active projects, and I was getting bored, and the role kind of settled into a routine that was, they didn't really need me, so I left. And then uh, during this time, I had started a side hustle in fashion, and fashion's been a very long-term interest since I was a kid. I'm not fashionable myself. I get most of my clothes currently from Walmart or Amazon Basics, but working with fashion has always been fascinating to me. So my fashion journey, this was many, many years ago, where I started importing wholesale lots and selling. I would list them on eBay and I would take them to swap meets. And I was looking for something unique from what everybody else was selling. And so I found I could import Brazilian jeans, Brazilian bikinis, Brazilian exercise clothing. The reason I was focused on Brazil is because while I was working for pre-Oracle and Oracle, I was doing Brazil localizations for a number of years. And I got to know the consultants. I got a few trips to Sao Paulo out of it and really started learning about Brazilian culture. And while I was down there, I noticed the clothing styles that were different. So I started importing it in. And it would be like a lot of 100 pairs of jeans for like $3 a pair. And then I would sell for like $10, $20. And Peruvian lingerie, of all places. And so I'd bring this in and sell them. And then when we moved to LA, and at that point I started sourcing from the LA Fashion District, which is this huge mecca. I'm not sure how many of you have been there. There's a whole bunch of wholesalers that have storefronts, and there's hundreds of them, maybe more. And I was pounding the pavement sometimes just once a week, sometimes three. I would go down there three, four, 5 times a week looking for stuff to sell. And a couple of things happened. One is I started focusing on dancewear. My friend told me, this is an opportunity to sell dancewear. So started selling at dance conventions face to face. So during the week I would do consulting and then Friday to Sunday, me and often my wife, actually I went my wife through a dance convention, but she would join me and we'd set up a booth. Sometimes Oksana, my daughter, would join us as well and sell through the weekend. And it was a combination of dancewear that I would find in the fashion district and complementary items like makeup, eyelashes, different things that people would need that the other vendors at the booths weren't selling. And then I was also an Amazon FBA seller for a while. That didn't really pan out. It's a lot of work for very little return. And I had an online store for a while as well. And then it's there came a point where I started contract manufacturing. One of the sellers I found out they had a small factory in Los Angeles. So I started working with them to develop my own branded styles. And I think the next slide I cover that in more detail. And then I started hiring for my online store. I started hiring some of my regular customers, and as a pro photographer, I got to know that would take the images. And it was a very mini tiny scale version of what's done today by the regular brands. It takes time and it's expense, a lot of coordination. But those were my earliest work with fashion models. And my first influencers, there weren't social media influencers. There were dance instructors at the dance conventions. So I had my booth, and one of the instructors would come up and admire something, or they're looking around, and I would make them an offer. I said, hey, if you wear I'll give you these clothes if you wear them at one of your classes, and then they'd be happy to take it. And they'd wear the clothes at a class, and there's hundreds of students in front of these dance instructors, mostly kids ranging from 6 or 7 through older teens, sometimes young adults. And they would come back and flood my booth because they wanted to wear what the dance instructor wore. So there's a dynamic that I took advantage of, and it worked out for everybody. And then I don't know if any of you remember there was a TV show called Dance Moms. It was on about 10, 12, 15 years ago. At some point, I didn't really know who they are, but my wife knew who they were. Uh, some of the kids and their moms showed up on my booth and they bought some stuff. And then 2, 3, 4 weeks later, maybe a month and a half later, it was showing up on TV. And people couldn't figure out where it came from because it was stuff I had contract manufactured. And eventually people started buying through the online store or at the dance conventions. There people who were fans of the Dance Moms TV show would come and they would see those items and buy them. And then actually we developed a relationship with them where I would just give them boxes of clothes or I would mail it to them. The dynamic was they would wear it on this TV show and it helped my brand. It was still a very small brand and kind of intentionally kept it that way. It was just a very um, just maybe couple hundred customers, but they became pretty loyal and they liked the styles. So those are my first influencers, but they weren't the typical social media type influencers. My fashion side hustle. I got some I realized I needed to get some more fashion background. So we were living in LA. I went to the El Camino Community College. It's a local community college there, and I took some fashion design classes. And my design work was working with something called croquis. This might be before everybody's, this is 20 years ago, something like that. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of croquis, but they're basically design sketches, and the instructor would have us recreate them as vectors in Illustrator. And they're basically outlines of body shapes. And then we would design our clothing on top of these croquis in Illustrator. And I also took some digital photography classes at the time and started getting into deeper into Photoshop. And then So I was designing dancewear and athleisure for this company called Idea Collections. Again, they had this one of the very few factories in LA, and it was very specialized. They specialized in seamless garments, and by seamless, it was there's no seams on the side. They're basically cloth tubes, and they used Santoni knitting machines. They had 8 or 10 of these things, these huge machines that could spin out everything from tube socks through things like t-shirts, camisoles, leggings, so on and so forth. And so my design focus was designing with the constraint that it needed to be possible to create them on a Santoni knitting machine. So what I would do is I would create something with Illustrator, bring it in, and then they had a technical designer who was trained to program these machines through a computer interface. And there was stuff like thread tension and the types of yarns that were used made a difference. And she knew that detail, and then she would do what she can to recreate my design so it could be created on a Santoni knitting machine. So I never got into other types of fashion design, and I did this for a number of years. Eventually, the factory closed down. They just could not compete with overseas companies that were doing similar things. But during this period, that was kind of the extent of my quote unquote fashion, my fashion design years. I also did some consulting with them. They want because I was selling face to face. They wanted feedback. What are customers liking and not liking, or what are they buying and not buying? They shared marketing ideas. I worked on the website uh, writing text for the websites and helping develop pages that can flesh out the websites. And again, this was like 10 or 15 years ago, and a lot of wholesalers and manufacturers didn't really have websites at all. They just sold to the storefronts. It was still pretty new to a lot of companies at the time. These images, just mid-journey stuff. I've posted this type of imagery off and on. And a lot of it was through Al's group, 28 Portraits. So yeah, it's constantly tinkering with Mid-Journey to give different effects. And if I liked them, I thought that people might like them, I would post them. So voice design, this was kind of my bread and butter after I got out of coding. I learned about Alexa skills, so I started making some on my own. And I found there was a software startup called Storyflow, then they got renamed to VoiceFlow, and they had node-based tools for designing these. And then I was a Facebook moderator for a while, so I started doing voice design through that and started posting my results on LinkedIn. And a hiring manager at Interactions that did traditional voice applications hired me, and it was Fortune 100 clients, and I had a variety of clients in different industries and got to work with human voice actors at the time. And towards the end, probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, I think it was, 11 Labs was just coming into play. For The challenge was we had human voice actors that weren't fond about the idea of 11 Labs or other similar types of technology because they would start replacing their jobs. And I started noticing that dynamic of this idea of losing one's work to AI at this point. What I learned from working here was the idea of brand alignment. So one of my clients was this huge electronics company. I'm not supposed to say their names because of NDAs. Another one was a giant credit union, insurance companies, a government agency, and they all had different needs and expectations as far as how their voice application. This would be involving calling the company or the agency on the phone. And what does that voice on the other end sound like? And what's how are they talking? And so forth. So I got into developing personas and going through worksheets to help design a persona, get that approved, and then move on to do the actual voice design. So when you call a bank, the equivalent of how can I help you today might be very different than if you were to call a government agency, and then how the questioning Q&A would follow through and the type of services that we provided versus when it's time to transfer to a live agent. I learned about regional dialects. So my I would arrange for translations, and I think it was the credit union. They said that they got feedback that the Spanish was too informal. And so I learned that regional dialects for its company or within a region was important, or formal versus informal. I guess maybe it's another way of thinking of it. So I started having everything translated through the translator at a more formal dialect. So these are kind of some of the things I learned, and I really enjoyed this work. But then I got laid off just about a year and a half ago now. These images, someone had a challenge related to this. And so it's a couple of mid-journey images. We're really experimenting with stuff. So generative AI, which to me is a new hope because I was pretty depressed about losing my voice job and found an opportunity to be creative, found educational opportunities and community. And there was the new technology of AI, but I think it's primarily through LinkedIn. Um, that more came with it than just the technology of being able to create pretty pictures and pretty videos. Um, that really makes a big difference to me. So I was looking for work new work in the voice industry, but I wasn't finding anything. But in the meantime, I started taking some online classes, like the free Google Kaggle course and other online courses that were free at the time. And started, I got a clean subscription initially and started practicing making images. And then it's actually a year ago, I think it was the June cohort, I took the Zen Robot Masterclass. It was led by Ross Simons to get some structure. And I found I needed some degree of structure and focus. And that's exactly what this class provided. And Harriet, if you're still on the call, was one of my teammates and got to know Harriet. And I think we've been friends since then. We're kind of in parallel journeys. As we proceed, but it provided a lot for me with coming out of this class. And then about, I think last February, they also started an ongoing class called Generative AI Academy. They've rolled it down so that they can refocus on their master class, but um, the instructor Ross would review the current available AI techniques and models that were coming out and help provide focus, provide tutorials to kind of learn them and learn how to leverage them. Um, I also became part of House of Curiosity as to I'm not I think Sabina and I think I saw you were on the call, and Israel and Krisa and Lori were leading this effort, and they're providing both educational opportunities that was very focused, and which was great for me, and also created a community as well. So they have a Tuesdays Conversations, which Big Al, I know you joined one not too long ago. And we'll talk about whatever we feel we need to talk about. Sometimes it's venting, sometimes it's just news of AI stuff, sometimes it's just personal stuff. So I feel that's kind of a tribe that I'm really happy and honored to have be a part of, and it really, to me, makes a big difference, particularly as working by myself doing AI stuff. The main event, I try to join when I can. I try to avoid missing them. If I do miss one, I'll watch the recording to learn about other people and what they're doing. And a lot of times it's those softer elements like learning about emotion and storytelling. Emotion was a big, big piece. So Big Al and Deanna in particular talked and shared about the value of emotion as you create AI visuals. And I've really taken to heart to try to focus on that. More recently, I started taking some classes through it's a company in Spain called The Clueless. They have a very famous avatar named Aitana out there in social media, about 3 years old. And they started teaching about how to develop influencers. And it's actually very structured and pretty deep, a lot of strategy, a lot of business considerations. It's not just here's some prompts, go out and creating your influencer and start sharing it on in social media. So it's a lot deeper than that. So I've been taking their classes for a couple months now, and it's to me it's very fascinating. It's a very different take on AI. And I learned a lot from LinkedIn posts. And what I found is different with this compared to LinkedIn pre-AI is that it's a very sharing community. There's a lot of generosity. It to me it's amazing. It's and I learn a lot from people's posts and I try to give back. So I when I try something and it seems to be working, I'll make a post about it and try to write out the steps that I did and it also fed into creating the Midjourney SREF ebooks as well. And participating in group challenges. I think it's another dynamic. I'm not sure if this existed pre-AI on LinkedIn or maybe other areas. Tagging each other to try things or group challenges to me is a big part of it. So I belong to a number of groups, 28 portraits, banana cats. This is a banana cat. And I made some of these steampunk looking high-end cat harnesses. I mean, because we have three cats and love cats. And this one has banana on it. So I belong to a number of groups. And then, so part of my life, I think it's tagging each other, group challenges. Is to me, it's part of being able, opportunity to be creative, to share, to interact, and be challenged as well. So a lot of times, if I create on my own, I kind of take the easy path but it's a little different when you get tagged or group challenge. Okay, I kind of have like a brief, almost like a brief from a company, you know, try to make something following the theme and work within that constraint or theme and try to do something that's kind of fun and creative. And LinkedIn, just divided being a business type platform, to me, it's turned it into a gallery. And the people that I follow, I see a lot of incredibly beautiful and inspiring and very creative work that I haven't seen anywhere else. And it changes daily. So all of you here, plus many other people I follow, I'll spend an hour going through LinkedIn feed and seeing what I feel is very amazing stuff. And I'm very grateful for all of this. You still with me? It's pretty quiet. So I make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's flying up hearts and applauding and thumbs up on the
Oh,
screen.
cool. Cool. I can't see any of
So,
that with the way
no,
I'm sharing, but
yeah,
appreciate that.
I think everybody is in agreement with you about this community. I mean, the phenomenal that what we have here with this global community and all of the it's evidenced by the people that have shown up here today. And why are they here today? Well, yeah, they come to the main event, but most of these people are here specifically because they wanted to see you today.
I very much appreciate that. Thank you everyone for joining. So the LinkedIn part of things, I think it's a node dynamic that's kind of parallel or hand in hand with AI, with the incredible amount of sharing and of knowledge. And I think pre-AI, working for corporations, so you got to protect your IP, no sharing of anything with anybody, anywhere, because this is how we, as a corporation, make money. But it's different with AI, and I'm happy to be a part of it as well. So this last slide with a bunch of bullets like this, kind of my areas of focus. So my fashion taste, I should probably say this, it comes primarily from Southern California and the LA fashion district. I don't have a strong background in New York and European or India clothing styles. I'm learning and I research it, but my taste is primarily falls back to Southern California. And when I can get to a point where I can get some contract work, it's probably be primarily wholesalers and brands and retailers out of the LA area. And it's a big area of its own. What I do enjoy is watching my yourselves and my peers who are doing work, who are creating spec ads and very luxurious stuff that are very European centric or New York centric. To me, that's quite fascinating. It's not my forte. I don't try to do that, but to me, it's part of the bigger picture. Emotions. I continue to follow this theme up. I always be exploring this area. Big Al and then Deanna. I'm not sure if you're on Deanna. Thinking about characters and the emotions they're conveying, or the image, if it's a non-character type of image or video, and what emotion is it trying to convey, and what do I want? The flip side or part of it is what do I want the viewer to feel when they see the visual or the audio visual? So to me, that's a big piece. Storytelling as well. So I've learned techniques from sources like ZenRobot or LinkedIn. I try to make a little, so I want to practice that technique. And sometimes I just post the results, say, hey, I learned this from Israel or Ross Simons or whoever it might be, or Teresa, how to do something and just post it. But if I have time, particularly if it's a video clip, I'm trying to wrap a story around it as well. So there might be a pre-component and then tell the middle of the story with the technique I learned and then have it wrap up. And so I'm starting to write these 1 minute long videos where maybe 30 seconds of it is a technique. I'm constantly exploring contemporary fashions, primarily through Midjourney, creating costumes, textiles. I'm a big fan of ikat and double ikat weaving and other types of textiles to the point where I even go to textile museums when I have access to one. Creating portraits and looking for options for new AI fashion models. I think I have someone called them an army. I have to have an army about 8 fashion models plus my influencer. Um, Manga imagery, kind of like these, with these characters wearing kimonos and swords and dragons. I really enjoy being able to create this type of material, well, consuming it be pre-AI as well as creating it. And um, to me, I get a lot of joy with working with these types of images, and I'll post them off and on in LinkedIn as well. So my goals and interests, I continue with personal artistic expression as well as I create the SREF ebooks I mentioned, and I usually come out with one every 1 to 2 months when I have extra Midjourney hours to work with. And I'm focusing on visuals for e-commerce, fashion, for example, retail websites with primarily clothing, but I'm doing a little bit of product, but primarily working with clothes is a big enough challenge as it is for both wholesale and website retail websites. And if the opportunity comes, maybe at least creating artwork for their social media campaigns and ads and so forth. I don't think I quite have the skills to do the whole thing yet, but I'm kind of working that direction. Got into AI influencers a few months ago, so I started one, and I'm still in the development stage, defining working with that influencer. I have some images further down of Fatima, the one I'm working with, as well as her backstory, the strategy, where she fits in. She lives in Southern California, and I have an interest in AI filmmaking. This is a little more longer term. I haven't spent too much time in this area, but I do have an interest in this area.
I've
So,
been, I've been concentrating on filmmaking lately because all my uh, commercial work has always been doing still images.
mhm.
But I've been really enjoying that, and plus the fact that we now have the capabilities that we have in filmmaking that just didn't even exist 2 months ago.
Absolutely. Nano Banana Pro and Dance 2, and to some extent Clean 3. Those models are making a turning point. So Nano Banana Pro for editing. The image can come from anywhere, Midjourney, but being able to correct it without spending hours and hours in Photoshop, or maybe something you can't even do in Photoshop to change it up to where it's something you like, and then be able to have it as start frames, end frames, or other parts of a film. Could be stills as part of a film. I've been doing that a lot. But so yeah, Big Al, I'll be watching what you're doing then as well. And I'll be tinkering in that area as well with really small pieces. So this is the last of my bulleted slides, and we'll start walking through some images. Any questions or
Anybody
thoughts?
have any questions at this point, or shall we start looking at his images?
Okay, I'll keep
Alan
going.
says, keep going here.
Okay. So images, I try to group them in groups of two or three and set some slides up. So these a little bit more artsy, working with primarily with portraits. These are all Midjourney. Giant eyelashes. I thought this effect was pretty cool. I didn't really prompt for it. I just prompted for shadow play with characters, and this one popped up. And I think I published this out on LinkedIn a while back. Monochrome, magenta in this case. Woman smoking cigarettes. I don't smoke, but I've always been fascinated by imagery with cigarettes. I think Harry has been influencing me not to post too many images of people smoking cigarettes because don't want to send the wrong message about cigarettes. And then this one is a pretty old image where I got this effect with the split color, and I always really liked this image. And there was variations that came out of Midjourney, but this one came out that kind of, for me, made a light bulb click that you can get some pretty cool stuff out of Midjourney. Manga images. And always liked manga and anime. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I've been consuming it since the 80s. Magazines as well as or booklets as well as anime video. On got a hold of VHS tapes at the time to watch them. So it's three different styles. I think all three of these have been on LinkedIn. The middle one is a banana cat one. I think this is a comment back to I think it was Ursula at the time where I made this in like 15 seconds on my journey and posted it back. And versus the other ones, these two, I spent some time kind of thinking through it and trying to create something I had in mind and see if I can get Midjourney to create it. This next one is costuming. This first one was kind of a blend of Japanese and Chinese theater, and really trying to focus on textile. You can't see it too well in here, but if you zoom in, the layers of fabrics that Midjourney could create with a lot of detail, to me is quite fascinating. Facial expression, different types of theatrical makeup. To me, I always enjoy this type of creating this type of work. And the middle one was a Balinese dancer, and then this other one, it's a kitsune or Japanese fox spirit with a mask. And I posted this one on LinkedIn. This one actually got quite a bit of likes on it, more than I thought it would. And I like these images because I just think they're pretty cool. Pro tip. So if you spend a lot of time in Midjourney creating photorealistic images, sometimes you get one that it's a little too risque or NSFW. And I usually get these when I don't prompt for it on LinkedIn, because if you do try to prompt it, you get flagged at your prompt. But sometimes I was creating some cowgirls wearing Western shirts, and this one came back and it had a couple issues. One is that it came back with their shirt unbuttoned down to her navel below her glove here. And I liked the image, but there's no way I could show it on LinkedIn or any other social media. And she is borderline underage as it is as well. But I like the image because this falcon is really close to her face. I dare not animate it because I was worried the falcon might peck at her face or something. But I liked it enough that I wanted to do some work with it. So my pro tip uh, is you can use Nano Banana Pro to button up her shirt. So unless you're working with a branded item where you can't be changing the pattern, I intentionally cropped the input image here that came out of Midjourney because it's just too risque. Had prompted to button up the shirt, hide her cleavage, but keep all the other details consistent. And Nano Banana Pro did a very clean reproduction, but with a shirt buttoned up. I never did post it on LinkedIn, but it's a pro tip that you can make things presentable with Nano Banana Pro. If you get a result that you really like, but there's problems with it. So this is an infographic that's been kind of in my area, but I think Gemini came out with the model where you could easily create infographics. So I created this one. I was influenced by somebody, I won't say who, it was the main event thing about getting into a little bit more dystopian type of things. So I came up with this idea of easy to swallow AI companions. So the idea is you swallow one of these pills with the AI companion. Pill would dissolve, the bot would crawl up into your brainstem and become your companion in your head. They could connect with the cloud. So you could ask an answer and you could ask a question in your head and get an instant answer. You could get advice, like help me fix the carburetor in my car. You get consolation and empathetic support when you're down, or support when something's going great. Have inner voice conversations, and even join you in your dreams. Have AI enhanced dreaming. So it's up to you to decide if that'd be a utopia or a dystopia. But I posted on LinkedIn and got all kinds of feedback about the idea.
It's fun.
So the challenge was creating the infographic, and it came out. I think it was two or three iterations, and I was amazed that it came out like this. And then I took some time to try to create these images with a character inside a capsule. I threw in a pet. I threw in some animals just to lighten it up a little bit. Some more artsy type. I think these were challenges. This is a verdant green challenge, and she has fronds in her hair, if you can see that. And then this other image I like, which partially her face partially covered by a veil, which I thought was a neat effect. Death stares, one of my favorite types of artwork. So I'll prompt for, I won't call out for death stares. I'll usually creating characters, and sometimes I'll get some images back where the gaze is very intense. So these are a couple of examples of those. This set of images is actually pretty old, and I was getting into exploring impossible makeup, I guess. I guess it would be possible to recreate eyelashes with teeny tiny flowers. Um, so I would experiment with this around them. These images are a good year, maybe year and a half old. I think they came out of Kling, but I thought they were pretty cool. Um, Maybe a little creepy, but it still to me was quite fascinating. Creating portraits. So I'm constantly creating portraits for candidates as models, and this one on the far left became one. I kind of bypassed it, but Nicoletta, I'm not sure on the call, but she spotted it and called her out. Said there's something special about her. So I took a second look and agreed she was right. She came up with some names and picked one, River. So Nicoletta is responsible for this one. And I have a video of her later on where she's wearing a dress, but her name's River. So what I did was I would take this image out of Midjourney and then create master images and put them into other platforms like OpenAI and create consistent characters for her there, as well as in Chimera as a reusable a custom model, and then use her as a fashion model to show different things. These other ones came out of Midjourney as well, and there's just images I liked how they came out. Um, this next one, I had posted a video called Emotion Machine. I can't find the Final Cut Pro video to strip out the music but these are the stills that I used to create the video. It's just a series of stills. So I created a workflow in an Imagimart canvas to create different variations based on emotions. So this is Kara, who's going to become I think she's already a fashion model. Just haven't worked with her too much. And a series of prompts and nodes to create different facial expressions. So what does she look like when she's happy or sad or pensive, being silly, and so on and so forth? There's actually probably double the number of these images in this workflow. So I can see what they look like and have a reference so I can get some consistency. So if I just prompt, happy or corners of the mouth upturned for to make her to have her smile and so forth, I might get dramatic results from one generation to the next. So I wanted to create references of that kind of represents what she looks like when she smiles or a variety of other types of emotions. And then this last one, I kind of stayed for last because Big Al and I talked about this one quite a bit. So it's emotional expression, but it's very overt. Ross Simons had put up a LinkedIn post that showed how to get this tear effect, this paper tear of a photograph effect. He had something else. I can't remember what it was. It was a while back, but it was something else. I decided to try it with a character image. So I have what it looks like a young woman in a field full of flowers and just with the sun shining brightly. And then the tear effect was to show what the emotion is underneath, which is a raging storm in this case. So it's very obvious, but I always thought this was a cool image and also just the technique I applied that I learned from somebody else.
Yeah, it's great.
So that's it for my slides. Oh, one more, sorry. So this is my AI influencer. I'm started developing. Her name's Fatima. She actually came out of a cowgirl project last year, which I really liked her facial expression. The Santee Alley, if you've been in LA in the LA Fashion District, there's a Saturday morning event called Santee Alley where a lot of vendors would set up to sell things. And I would go to these, and I wasn't necessarily buying things, but I was seeing what people would be buying, so I could figure out what I'm going to get. So it would change weekly. So a particular type of jeans or shirt or handbag or makeup or whatever, it would develop its own energy. Um, and it was set up in the alleyways in a particular part of Los Angeles. This image actually, the background image actually came from Deposit Photos, the stock image. I have this very old Deposit Photos account for stock imagery, which I bought like 100 pack for very cheap on a Black Friday sale. And I still have a lot of images left. So I'll grab stills from there where I think I want something a little bit more. I didn't want to try to design this in a prompt. So I took the image, I dropped Fatima taking a selfie. And then these other three, I started thinking about what am I going to do with makeup? So a daytime scene or evening scene. So it's very subtle here. So I created a mini workflow. I grabbed a palette image from the Tom Ford site of we had it's like a mini palette with three different colors of eyeshadow and and I used it as a reference image. So it's like take my character and add eyeshadow based on the first palette or the first color in the palette. And I think it was topaz rose. And then the second one, so I got very subtle and a little more subtle. And then this one for like evening, it's more visible. You can kind of see the golden rose color here. So experimenting with makeup and also hairstyles as well, and developing workflows so that if I get a client, they want to use either one of my fashion models and they say, well, can you put on some evening makeup on that character? I have something I can work with or some experience doing with it, and I have a sense of what I can and can't do. Or change up the hairstyle, or change her emotion to be smiling more broadly. So for myself, I'm trying to develop some workflows and practice potential requests like this from clients.
Got
So
some
that's it
nice
for my.
stuff. Got some nice stuff, Mark.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, everyone. I can't see it, but I appreciate that it's there. Thank you. So next, I was going to look at some video. Are we doing okay on time,
Yeah, go
Big
ahead.
Al?
That's fine.
Okay. So I got most of these are pretty short. I have older ones through newer ones. Um, so this one was one of my first videos that I got some positive reinforcement on LinkedIn. This is probably at least a year or more ago, and it's simply a mannequin picking up those shoes and walking off. So that I was able to get this to look like a mannequin. I mean, obviously it's not realistic, but the idea of her walking out, grabbing the shoes, walking out to the window, walking out the street was to me is pretty fascinating.
And she can walk through glass.
Yeah. This next one, this was a cling challenge from a good year or so ago. And so this one actually is a fail, but a it was a challenge to use one of their effects, but it won like a second place award. I got like umpteen thousand points or credits, which was like 3 months worth of credits at the time. So anyway, here it is. So it's a Mach 1 Mustang. So it flops over here. I wanted to shoot up into the sky, but it didn't. But that's what I had. I posted it, and Kling found it in the hearts to give it an award, give it a second place, and got a whole bunch of credits for it. I don't know if any of you remember Zach Soijo. He's a good friend. He used to be on LinkedIn all the time. Tremendous sense of humor, incredible creative work. And these next couple are kind of either influenced from him or dedicated to him. So this is a super silly one. This is a cat eating a croissant mouse. This next one, there was a company coming out with influencer type product placement software called Top View. I'm not sure if they're still around, but they gave some free credits. This teapot was actually designed by Zach Soijo, and it was my first attempt to bring an object, keep it accurate, and bring it in to have an influencer show it. So that was the challenge for me was working with a product and not deviating from what the product looked like, and it took a number of attempts.
Designed by the renowned Zach, this isn't just a teapot, it's a statement. Elegant and uniquely charming, a masterpiece of design.
Yeah. And then this next one was this baby playing chess with this her companion robot and with her cat. So it was kind of out there, but I always thought the laughing effects were pretty fascinating and pretty interesting. Do you guys remember Sora from way back? It was a video model came and went. When they first came out with, I think it was Sora 2, they offered free credits. So I started tinkering with it, and I wanted to make a motorcycle a jump between two aircraft carriers, and this is the closest I got. So she made it. The music Big Al came out of Sora, so I'm hoping it's okay as far as licensing. This one, it actually began as a portrait. I was prompting for I was studying some mythology and prompted for it in Midjourney. So this is a character that started off as a portrait on the end frame, and then I used Nano Banana to create a start frame, and I think it was OpenAI, and I prompted to add her sitting on a obsidian throne in a very stark castle setting with tile floors and a stone wall with three torches behind her. And I couldn't figure out what to do with a staff that was kind of interesting. So I ended up having her, because she's supposed to be mythological and celestial, I created a staff with a singularity at the top, which I imagine would be very dangerous if it truly existed. So again, Death Stare, one of my favorite themes. This next one is I started practicing fashion videos. This is a Chimera based on Chimera template. The rest of these videos, I get my music from Epidemic Sound. It's a subscription-based service. I've had it for a few years now. So these videos I stripped out the sound because Big Al would not be able to share this on YouTube without probably getting dinged. So these all normally have a soundtrack behind them. There's some sound effects or a little bit of sound that comes from the image or video model, not the image, but the video model, which I think are okay. But I stripped out sound effects that I got from Epidemic Sound and the music tracks as well. So this is River. This is the character from the raised eyebrow that Nicoletta had called out, modeling a dress. This dress came from Reformation, so it's an actual dress, and I started practicing um, pulling the image off a listing and creating a ghost mannequin image and then reapplying it to the fashion model and then running the template. And looking at these closely, there are some continuity errors that if you look really close, you'll see them. So you still have to pay attention when using things like templates on details, and you decide whether really need to take the time to redo it or clean it up versus it's okay as is.
Why don't you show us a couple more and then we'll open it up for conversation.
Okay, let me pick. I
Oh, that,
think probably.
okay.
Sorry, do you have a preferred one?
No, go ahead.
This is one of the last several, which is my AI influencer Fatima climbing, and here, let's look at it. Again, music's been stripped. This is Nano Banana Pro and C Dance 2. So the storyboard, this is OpenArt's Smart Shot application, which you put in a prompt and it creates a storyboard for you. Or actually, it's more than a storyboard. So I had a couple image references, primarily the my character, and then reference some rock climbing details, and then it created the storyboard, which you could preview and then run it through. It used Cdance to create the video based off the storyboard. So the benefit of this is that it creates a storyboard without having to design it directly through prompting through something like Nano Banana Pro, and it turned out nice. The other one is very similar. It was another test of the same. So this is Fatima who's surfing. So let me show you the storyboard that OpenArt created as part of this. So I had my character as reference image, and I had found a wetsuit that would work for her from a specialty retailer that sells wetsuits, and just picked one for her that was purple, and created a turnaround sheet showing that. So these became input. These were input images uh, tied into Nano Banana Pro, which is the underlying image model. And it took that and plus my resume prompt. I prompted information about the North Shore Bonsai Pipeline in Hawaii. I researched what are some surfing techniques that they use, and I added them into the prompt, and it developed the rest of these details to create the 15-second video. It actually did several iterations because a couple of the middle pieces didn't look right or didn't look real. So, and then I edited it together in Final Cut Pro to create that final image. And there was a music track which I stripped out for what you just saw.
I think
So
the storyboard stuff is a very interesting approach to things. That was one of the news items today too about using the storyboard to create the videos.
yeah, I think you mentioned Christine had put something together. So I'll probably find her post. And I do want to try to start developing storyboards without that are straight prompting to create them in, I assume, Nanobana Pro, whatever the appropriate, maybe GPT image 2, and then having that as an input for Cdance or Clean to create the video. So that I'll probably be working on that for a while. Um, But yeah, so the concept is pretty amazing.
No.
Anyway, that's what I had from what I was presenting.
Oh, good. Let's stop your screen sharing and we'll open it up for comments. People?
Well, I see some people. I'm seeing who's still here. Thanks for joining, everyone. Hi, Harriet. Hi, Sabina. Hi,
Hi,
Israel.
Mark. Thank you so much. That was
Hi,
super
Linda.
interesting. Wouldn't miss this in a world. And you've come a long way, wow, since we've started, no?
I think so. I think we all have. And part of it is we're following an evolution of technology while developing our skills and thinking about storytelling, in my case, storytelling, taste, emotions, and trying to, it's a combination, there's a fire hose of technology coming at us constantly, weekly, and taking what kind of works and focusing enough to take some time to practice with it.
Anyone else? Rachel's giving you applause.
I saw that. Thank you, Rachel. It's nice. I know it's like what, 2 in the morning where you're at? 3 in the morning?
It's 3 a.m. now.
Oh,
Thank you.
wow.
Well, thank you for joining. I don't know if you're just a night owl or if you did join for this, I really appreciate that you did that.
Al, you want to make a comment?
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Mark, for sharing not only your work, which is superb, but also the person behind it, which is equally superb. So thank you from the heart. You're an amazing guy, and you've done a lot of great things, and you'll continue to do a lot of great things moving forward. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Al.
Linda?
I am thinking about filmmaking, Al. So when we had a
Oh,
conversation about it, but I might be hitting you up soon.
I welcome that. Thank you, buddy.
hey, Linda?
I think one of the best things about today, Mark, is getting to know you more. I didn't know a lot of your history, and it's fascinating. There's so many places where we cross, you know, we're a little longer in our life journey, so we've had different lives within that life journey. And this is just, I wish we could do this with everybody to go through and get to know each other. I think it would help us connect when we had to learn something that we didn't know. You know, I had no idea that you were involved in fashion, and it's a huge part of who you are. And wow, this has just been the best time. Thank you so much, Mark, for being in here and sharing. Wonderful.
I'm
Thank you
going to
too,
make
Linda.
I'm going to make a suggestion here. Something that I do every once in a while is when I connect with a new person and they look like they have an interesting background and everything, I will ask to do a Zoom call with them and get acquainted. Spend an hour talking to them or so. And then you have friends like Lisa, who we're chatting all the time. So. That's great. Teresa?
Hey, Mark. Thank you for sharing. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you. I know we have private conversations all the time.
Yeah.
You are always so supportive of me and everyone else. And I think that that's one of your greatest uh, traits.
Yeah, I think
And you're very humble. And I'm glad that you're on this journey with me as well as everyone else here. Thank you so much for sharing.
yeah, thank you too, Teresa. Thanks for your kind words.
Well,
And
I certainly agree. I certainly agree, Mark. I think that one of the reasons why I was interested in having you come on is because of the amount of sharing that you do all the time. It really is something that not only because of the fact that you're sharing, but you're sharing some very interesting things, and I think you did that again today. So I greatly appreciate it. Jordan.
Hey, Mark, really appreciated the story today. That was awesome. I
thank you too.
also I also can relate to the community. I've just had the most amazing experience meeting tons of new people, incredible artists, and the community on LinkedIn has just been incredible. So this is the first time I really have been loving networking. Um, So yeah, I loved your session today. Um, I got a
Yeah.
question for you. Have you seen my latest Intel report? I just dropped it today.
I haven't, I started working on the presentation yesterday afternoon and then this morning, so I haven't been on LinkedIn. I'll look for it though.
Okay, cool. I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
And I agree with Jordan too, where we just mentioned networking. So I think LinkedIn traditionally, and maybe they're still geared up for business networking, and it's one of those things like you got, kind of taught. Well, you got to network as part of finding your next job or gig or whatever it might be. But I think with AI and in parallel, it's changed, and it's a very different type of LinkedIn within the scope that I think all of us participate on LinkedIn. So I don't know if LinkedIn proper can keep up with it. I don't know if they even recognize that the AI community is pretty special.
Rachel just commented, I can't talk as I'll wake the family. It has been so interesting to learn about you and your incredible experiences, Mark. Thank you so much for your presentation tonight.
Thank you too, Rachel. Thanks for joining at such a in the middle of the night for you. Appreciate your taking the time to do that.
I'm always amazed how frequently she attends these things. It's really a key person in the community, and I think that the fact that she's interested in seeing everybody is just phenomenal. So I agree. Well, I'd like to just take a couple minutes to share my screen and talk about what's coming up, because we've got some good stuff coming up. Next week is going to be a lot of fun because Harriet is going to join us and Lori Mazer. I found out from Lori Mazer that she's actually going to be joining us from Costa Rica. She's on a trip at that time. And we're going to talk about making music with Suno, and I think it's great to have the variety of the three of us in terms of approach to music and how we're using it, and the fact that the three of us can produce such a wide variety of things using the same program. So that's next week. The following week is Eva Norte from London is going to be here, one of the top architects promoting things on LinkedIn. Very talented. I follow her on a couple of different social media. The following week will be the last Friday of the month, and that's when we will be looking at everybody's results of their accepting the Faraway Places Challenge of June for the Big Al Big AI Challenge. And this is going to be a really fun one. This is our good buddy Brian Sykes, and I said you can invite Trish to come as well. They are doing something that I think any of us would love to do, but don't have the guts to do it, and that is they are going on a 3-year trip around the United States, spending a month in each place, trying to decide where it is that they are going to live. So that's their Are We There Yet trip. And also he's got a new book out, Creative Control, which he'll be able to talk about that. Then we have Jim Keene, another architect from New York, who's got a very keen interest by the play on words in sci-fi. So we'll learn about his architecture as well as his sci-fi imaging. And that's it. This is where we were today. Everybody, I really appreciate you being here today. And Mark, that was a terrific presentation. And so thank you very, very much.
Thank you too. Thanks for hosting this.